The NBA draft every year provides us with some of the biggest surprises we'll ever see, some good and some bad. Today we're focusing on the good surprises, however, because we are going to talk about some of the biggest steals of the 2022 NBA draft. But before we start, I have to take a look back and applaud myself for my predictions I had on the 2020 NBA draft and the biggest steals back then. I mentioned guys like Cole Anthony, Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, Desmond Bane as guys that will exceed expectations for their respective teams, and 2 years later, I was right on the money with those guys. Let's see if I can match that level of accuracy in this year's video. But enough of me patting myself on the back. Before we actually get into this video, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We're trying to grow our channel as much as possible, so any type of engagement will help me out so much, y'all. But without further ado, let's get into this video. First off, I have to mention the overall winners in this year's draft, in my eyes, the Detroit Pistons, because they did acquire not one, but two of the biggest steals of the draft, in my opinion, those guys being Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duran. Starting off with Ivey, he was probably the most exciting and show-stopping player from this year's draft, and with good reason. His insane athletic ability coupled with his supreme skill to go along with his length and size is something NBA teams were salivating over. Now, I will preface my comments by saying I am in agreement with the Kings that Keegan Murray was most likely a better fit for the team than Ivey was. The Kings already have De'Aaron Fox, who they aren't letting go, and they also have Mr. Off Night himself and Davion Mitchell, who showed a lot of promise last year, so there was no point in drafting yet another guard this year. On the other hand, Ivey was the next best available player, and he fell an extra spot, so the Pistons hopped on that opportunity. Besides, the Kings have a history of passing up on prospects that turned out to be stars the very next pick after them. So that's already looking like a W for the Pistons. The Pistons are in full rebuild mode, and I applaud them for making the right steps so far, handing Cade Cunningham the keys, drafting and developing guys like Cade, Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, guys like that. Ivey brings a blending contrast to the Pistons, as Cade Cunningham is more of a methodical, surgical type of ball handler and playmaker, and then Ivey brings some much needed athleticism to the backcourt. The thing that's scary about this newfound young duo is that both guys are capable of playing on and off the ball, as both guys are good enough shooters, and in addition to that, Ivey could be used as a backdoor cutter with how quick and explosive he is. At Purdue, he did spend much of his time on the ball as he flourished as an end-to-end guy who was electrifying. Purdue, with their quick pace, was perfect for Ivey's game. Quick pick and rolls created slashing opportunities, but as you would imagine, he thrived in transition. He wasn't as good of a ball handler and playmaker as you probably would want him to be. That's why I see him being more off the ball than Cade, but I can see him definitely handling the ball at a pretty high rate. I think with Cade, he's more of a natural playmaker and facilitator, at least mindset-wise. He loves to set up his teammates in pick and rolls as well as in isolation situations, which sometimes could be seen as a negative with people saying he's being too passive and not looking for his own shot enough. But so far, he's found a good balance in between the two. I'm about to make a comparison for Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, and I'm comparing them from a play style perspective. This new backcourt reminds me of James Harden and Russell Westbrook in Houston. A contrast of two styles that actually blend together. Despite what casuals want to say about that duo, they were both putting up MVP numbers that season. Harden, like Cade, is more of a natural playmaker of the two guys. Harden played at a more methodical pace, similar to Cade. Then you had a guy off the ball who could absolutely fly up and down the court in Russell Westbrook, cutting to the basket, attacking the rim on drives and closeouts, push the ball in transition. Those are things Ivey can bring to the table as well as a secondary ball handler from the off-guard spot who can also make plays for other people. They are building something very compelling in Detroit, and I'm excited to see, and the Pistons having Saddiq Bey provides a complementary piece next to those guys due to him having the potential to be one of the best shooters in the league one day. Number 2 on the list of biggest draft steals, we're staying with the Pistons and Jalen Duran. Thanks to the New York Knicks organization, they helped me come up with this list. He was a big man from Memphis who was physically imposing, as his physical tools were NBA ready from the jump. Couple that with the athletic ability and mobility, and you got yourself a dynamic big that can be very guard friendly. He's a guy who has great timing to come over and block shots weak side. He can defend in post-ups, knows how to play pick and roll defense, and can even switch onto guards on occasion, holding his own. His versatility will be valued 100% in the league, And on the offensive end, this guy can make a difference as well. He will no doubt be a pick and roll partner with Cade and Jaden, as he's athletic enough to not only set the screen, but roll hard to the basket to catch lobs. Like I mentioned, he's a strong physical dude, so you'd imagine he'd be a brick wall for these guards, giving them space off screens to get their shots off. He obviously can play the dunker spot, and in addition to his athleticism, he has a very soft touch around the rim, and he can finish post-ups and even putbacks, as he's almost automatic when he's in the paint. He gives me kind of a DeAndre Ayton type of vibe from his physicality aspect and soft touch around the rim. Speaking of DeAndre Ayton, we'll see if the Pistons follow through with the rumors swirling about him signing with the Pistons this offseason. Number 3, we have the mystery man himself, Shaedon Sharpe, going to the Portland Trailblazers at number 7. This 5-star had committed to Kentucky before ultimately sitting out due to him wanting to prepare for the NBA. He's a guy that is uber talented, especially from the athletic standpoint. He can jump through the roof, and he was one of the best dunkers in high school. He attacks the cup with ferocity and force that you would love to see from a guard. He can easily blow by many of his defenders, and he's low-key stronger than you think. In some ways, Shaedon Sharpe kind of reminds me of an Anthony Edwards type of player. Both strike me as guys who are always in attack mode looking to score, athletic as hell, strong when driving to the basket, and a natural slasher type guys. Sharpe has solid ball handling for an off guard, so he can create his own space to pull up for mid-ranges as well as threes. The main thing with Shaedon is that he didn't play off last season at Kentucky after being the number 1 overall recruit after reclassifying. Him not playing is mainly why he went lower in the draft than we probably would have seen if he had played. I'm predicting he's going to be a steal for the Blazers because 4 years ago, the Blazers had a similar situation with a guy that's currently fresh off a year in which he averaged 17 points per game, more than double his average the year before. That guy, of course, is Anfernee Simons. The Blazers found a diamond in the rough with him as he fell 24th of the 2018 draft, and teams were questioning if they should take a chance on him because he hadn't played in college. The Blazers did their thing, and now they're reaping the benefits of it. Obviously, the Blazers know something that we don't know about guys who are mysteries, so hopefully for them, Sharpe is also on that level of success. As for the next guy, Malaki Branham is another guy I look at as being a potential steal. First off, this probably means the end for Lonnie Walker in San Antonio, but who knows. Branham's going to be going into the Spurs system, and you know that means more often than not, he's going to develop nicely. The Spurs pride themselves on having guys that might not have the highest upside or talent, but guys who don't make too many mistakes, guys who have a high basketball IQ, and is a team-first type of player, and Branham can perfectly fit that mold. The thing with him, though, is he actually has talent to show off. He's a very solid overall player, not a Skywalker, but pretty athletic. Not a great shooter, but he can get the job done. Not a crazy lockdown defender, but he's definitely solid on that end of the floor. He's actually a better ball handler than you think when you're watching him, as well as an underrated facilitator. You can tell he has a good feel for the game, as on many occasions he ran the offense for the Buckeyes, and his bread and butter is the mid-range, and he kind of gives me a Chris Middleton, Karis LeVert type vibes. He is good enough to create his own shot off the dribble. He can work very well off of DeJounte Murray, and the expectation obviously aren't too high at this point as he went 20th, but he has a chance to be a very solid NBA player in due time. Those were the main draft steals that came up to my mind. Quick rundown of the final draft steals. Tari Eason is one of, if not the best defender in the draft. At 6'8", he's long and wiry, and he uses that to his advantage. He can also make long closeouts, chase down drivers, and stay in front of smaller, shiftier guys. He is that versatile defensively, and you can tell he is defensive-minded. Offensively, he's a guy that can be a complimentary shooter and off-the-ball player to be alongside Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., guys like that. He does low-key have a good off-the-dribble game as well. It wasn't on display too much. The good thing about Eason is that he will fit in with these Rockets, who are projected to be a bad defensive team mainly because they're young and they don't have the personnel. So Eason being that little switch up there, a guy who's defensive-minded, a guy who is going to lead the charge defensively, can help change things down there in Houston. His production was absolutely insane at LSU. He only started 4 games, but he averaged 28 points per game, 10 rebounds per game per 40 minutes on 52% shooting from the field and 36% from 3. This guy has a chance to be a big-time steal. Jaden Hardy is another guy similar to Shaedon Sharpe that can create his own bucket using his explosiveness, aggressiveness, and confidence. Right off the bat, you can tell this guy has supreme confidence about himself. Maybe sometimes irrational confidence creeps in at times, but that's okay. Last year, he played in the G League, and he also put onto display his total package. He's a score-first guard that is very powerful, confident, and he uses those tools along with his crafty ball handling and shifty footwork. He can break a guy down one-on-one, split a pick and roll, attack mismatches, and create just enough space for him to shoot. The crazy thing is that he made so many contested shots in the G League, you can just tell he's put in so much work on it. There are rumors that Jalen Brunson might leave the Mavericks, so that could potentially open up an opportunity for Jaden Hardy to come in and fight for minutes right off the bat. But with that being said, y'all let me know who y'all's biggest draft steals are of the 2022 NBA draft. Let me know what y'all think about the guys I mentioned. I think they probably are a couple more in there, like Dyson Daniels, like Patrick Baldwin Jr. Those guys have opportunities to really surprise a lot of people too. But y'all let me know what y'all think. What do y'all think this draft class is going to be projected as 5-10 years from now? How good you think it's going to be? Who's the best player in the draft? Who's the best player going to be in this draft? Things like that, man. But make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe for more videos. And with that being said, this is Jimmy from Just the Facts Hoops, and I'm signing out. Peace.